Hey friends, y'all know me. I'm just a big goofball, always hoping to discover something new and maybe learn something new along the way. I found a new cool place and I met a new friend. He's a screenwriter, a filmmaker, and a stand-up comic. What were the chances? He's also a community volunteer. Is it just me, or couldn't we all use a little more fun and adventure? This time, I drove down to Sparta, Tennessee. Hey guys, I'm in Sparta, Tennessee, standing just outside M&H Hardware store where Torry Martin, a really cool guy, has put together an awesome display. Let's go check it out.
Greetings, Earthlings.
I don't know if you grew up loving Pez, but I always loved those Pez dispensers. You're gonna see a Christmas wreath made from Pez dispensers. Okay guys, wait until you see this. I found, of all things, a Sasquatch. Actually, a whole lot of Sasquatch stuff. Sasquatch stuff. As I mentioned, I'm here at the M&H Hardware store, and I'm actually getting ready to have a conversation with a really cool guy that you're really gonna love. His name is Torry Martin, a really interesting guy. He's done everything from acting and film to comedy and just lots of other things, but he's just a fellow creative, and I just love him, and so I want you to meet him too, and I want him to tell you about this amazing place. Hey. Hey, you have an amazing place here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I know I've kind of felt like when I stepped in here, I was like, just stepped into a dream, really. I love all of the toys and the magic and the lights and all of this. Where did this come from, this idea for this place?
The short answer would be that I decided to get involved in my community.
Oh, that's awesome.
I suffer from anxiety, and I'm a writer by trade, so I spend most of my time by myself. And I went through a couple of years of depression, and I took a hiatus from the film industry because, you know, that was what was causing a lot of the depression.
Yeah.
And that was the faith-based film industry.
Imagine
Surprisingly
that.
enough. I decided, as part of my to fight the depression, was that I was going to try to get involved in my community. So I gave myself a private season of yes.
Oh, I love that.
I knew that I was going to do 6 months of saying yes to things that were, you know, all moral, but to things that I would normally say no to, like getting invited over to somebody's house for dinner.
Yeah.
Where you don't know them and you've got to act nicer than you really are. That's high anxiety stuff for me. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm a vegetarian. They never believe me, and I'm not. So I challenged myself to a season of yes. Well, I had a friend, Joe King, who's my comedy partner from Alaska. We were walking down the street and he saw the Coffee Collective. I didn't even know it was we had a coffee shop. And he said, you know, I think it would be a really good idea for you to get outside the house and go to this coffee shop and meet 3 people a day for 3 days in a row. Just, you know, do that. And I'm like, because I couldn't tell anybody I was doing a season yes, because then they'll send you on all sorts of, you know, and I wanted it to be when it was really from God.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I did that. I went to this coffee shop 3 days in a row to meet 3 people each day, which is hard for me because I look like this. People are not inclined to come approach this. Hey! Then I overheard a conversation in the Coffee Collective where one lady said to another, you know, if everybody in this town did 3 good things for this community, we could change this place. And I thought, now I have to do 3 things for the community. And this could be my personal challenge. So I put together a package of what 3 things I would like to do, and I went in and approached the mayor with it, and he gave me the go-ahead. And as I was walking down the street, I met Ray Schaefer, who owns this place.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, and he had just bought it. It had been vacant for 40 years. Could I put together a Christmas display for the city as a gift to bring a little light to Sparta? It'll be the perfect escape for me from the entertainment industry and just to do my creativity, and it will allow me to meet people. I wanted to create a vintage experience where people could come to a place where there is no bad news and just recapture some of those vintage feelings from their youth. So my uncle introduced me to comic books, and that was a great escape. I love the story of action heroes like Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter, but secretly Superman.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, college student, but secretly Spider-Man. And I like that. Comic books really trained me for what I'm doing, for screenwriting. Because they're basically a storyboard, a comic book is. You know,
So
you've got
true.
the picture of it, you've got the dialogue, you see the action. So that was my training ground for what I ended up doing, but I've always loved comics.
So you lived up in Alaska, and I mean, I could ask you tons of questions about that, but I read that you had been to the North Pole a few times.
Yes, a lot of the ornaments came from the actual North Pole.
That is just crazy. So what's it like in the North Pole?
Well, it's very snowy, very cold, and very small.
And very small.
Very
I
small.
imagine that it would be, yeah.
Now, see, when I was living in Alaska, well, I could show you two things, but when I was living when I first moved to Alaska, it's not plugged in now. My only Christmas ornament, the only Christmas ornament that I had, that my grandmother and my mom had made this tree for me and sent it. This was my only Christmas ornament.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
sitting in that camper thinking, one day, I want to have a house with heat and a flushing toilet. Wouldn't that be nice? And I want to have a house filled with laughter, and I want to have a Christmas so I could share with everyone.
And he has put this collection together just to make people happy.
So every year for 19 years, after Christmas, all the ornaments would be on sale. And I would boogie on down to the North Pole. And I would only buy them if they were 75% off. And then I would collect these action figures from yard sales. And well, it all just kind of came together.
A Christmas tree made completely of comic characters. It's amazing.
When I was working in Alaska State Parks, my nickname was Moose because I was making moose dropping jewelry. You know, earrings, tie tacks, cufflinks. The nose rings never really took off. But I also made Christmas garlands out of moose droppings and sold them to tourists. So these are all moose droppings. You'll notice the difference between a summer moose and a winter moose. In the summer, they're eating more greens and stuff.
Oh, I
so
see. Yeah.
It's a darker brown.
A darker
but
brown.
in the winter, they're eating tree bark, and they'll become these lighter ones.
Yeah, different hues.
Yes.
Over 500 feet of moose droppings. That's a whole lot of Christmas.
So I was working for Alaska State Parks, and I would go up to people and say, if you find any moose droppings in your campground, could you pick them up, please, and drop them off my camper? Or come get me, and I'll come and pick them up. And I would sell earrings for $5. They're just two little droppings on the ground. You know, and everybody's like, that's a perfect gift, a gag gift to take back to the lower 48.
Oh, absolutely. And an endless supply.
Yeah, but it never stops.
It never runs out.
And then we also had a company called Accidental Clothing, where we made bikinis out of roadkill and sold them to tourists.
No way.
This is my Red Fox hat. This is out of a fox that had been hit by a car. See, I think you should turn that camera on. We're going to give you the honor.
All right.
See?
All right, guys.
That's a fox.
That's a fox. Okay, I thought so.
I always thought you were a fox, and now you are.
Yeah, I think the fox hat works. Probably a better idea than the bikini. I don't know.
Yes, well for you.
What about that collection of lunch boxes? I've always loved lunch boxes and the nostalgia that comes along with that.
I do too, but none of those lunchboxes are mine.
Oh, okay.
No, those all belong to John G across the street.
I
Her
see.
mom passed away last year and had collected lunchboxes for her antique store. And so she donated them for us to display. So there's some good ones here. Like we've got Evil Knievel and the Fall Guy.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
I thought definitely should then be put right next to Emergency because
Oh, 100
they're
tons.
going to need it.
Yeah.
The original
That's great.
Star Wars, Return of the Jedi. This is Electro Woman and Dinah Girl before Deidre Hall went on Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. Nice.
The Osmonds, Laugh-In.
Those old lunch boxes just mean a lot. They're just so special. Somebody carried these things to school one day. Now you have some things coming up this year. You want to tell us a little bit about your podcast that's coming up?
I'm going to be doing a podcast. And it's going to be called Sidetracked because I have chronic ADHD and I don't want to be lumped into any, he talks about this.
Oh, sure.
I want to talk about whatever I'm
You want to talk?
distracted
Yeah,
about that
absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends in the film industry and in the publishing industry and the music industry who are going to be my guests. I also have Shay Bentley, who is the 2000 Supercross Motocross World Champion, is coming in to do our first interview in January.
Okay.
Marshall Younger, we just taped a podcast interview with him. He's the new executive producer, the new showrunner for Adventures in Odyssey in a folk song family in Colorado Springs. And then we're going to be interviewing, hopefully, my friend Dallas Jenkins, who's the director of The Chosen. But whoever interests me.
There's a little set that you've created and it says yurt.
Yes. Well, yurt is a word that's a saying in Sparta only. And so I'm working on filming interviews on the history of yurt. Where did it originate? What does it mean? Give us your best yurt.
Yurt.
Over on this side, we're going to be interviewing locals on the memories of the M&H. Because during the process last year when I had this set up, there's people who haven't been in this store for 40 years.
Wow.
Who remember everything.
They're going to have stories to tell.
Oh my goodness, and do they? I played the Cowardly Lion for a year at the Seattle Center House Theater.
I can totally see it.
So people would gift me things.
No, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. We are in Sparta, Tennessee, one of my favorite places. I want to thank you so much for letting me kind of just come and get a glimpse of this, because I think not only what you've done for your community is awesome, but what you're doing and what you're planning, just that's going to benefit so many people. Well, that's a wrap for my time here at the M&H Hardware. Special thanks to Torry Martin. Really cool stuff up here. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, you got to come see it.